You're listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast, where a 40-year radio veteran talks to Hall of Famers, up-and-comers, legends, producers, journalists, record executives, and more to talk about music and the amazing stories behind it all. If you like what you hear today, be sure to subscribe to it, like it, share it with everyone you know. You can also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for regular updates about upcoming guests. Today, we're brought to you by Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee. Be sure to stop by their state-of-the-art dealership next to BJ's and Big Y on Memorial Drive, or stop by their website at metrojeep.com and make it Metro. And then drive home in your new Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram today.
It's Baxie's Musical Podcast. Resistance is useless.
When I mention the city of Albany, New York, what's the first thing that comes to mind? You might think, well, that's the capital city of the state of New York, or maybe you'll mention that Albany was first established by the Dutch colonials who used the Hudson River to help create the bustling North American fur trade in the early 1600s. Or maybe you'll say, hey, isn't Albany, New York also the home of the indie dream pop band Laveda, whose new album is about to be released this week and who just appeared outside Boston at Deep Cuts in Medford last month? Well, it turns out you'll be right about all three of those things, no matter which direction you chose to take that conversation. Laveda is a band from Albany whose new album, Love Darla, is about to be released this Friday on Bar None Records. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with these guys, Laveda is a band built primarily around two songwriters who have created some truly wonderful stuff over the last 5 years. Their first record, What Happens After, was released in 2020, followed by their next album, A Place You Grew Up in 2023. Both were great, but the new album, Love Darla, is their most ambitious effort yet. Laveda, who are now based in Brooklyn, have clearly found their voice and are about to launch what I believe is their strongest record yet. This becomes especially apparent when you listen to all three of their records, and then you can start to see how far they've actually come. Love Darla is not only a great new record, it also represents the accumulated experience and maturity that comes out of a collaboration between two songwriters who are both open to growing creatively and creating a space that allows them to keep getting better and moving forward. To talk about all of that are the band's two primary songwriters, Genevich and Jacob Brooks from Laveda. They're my guests today on Baxie's Musical Podcast. Whenever I talk to someone who's like days away from releasing a record, especially one that's like noticeably different than their previous stuff, I always ask the same question. What are you feeling? And the answers range from excitement to fear to these extreme levels of, oh my God, what did we just do?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think we're excited for sure. I'm a little nervous. I think luckily we've been playing a lot of the songs from the new record out live. We've been doing a lot of touring, like light touring this summer and regional shows, and we've definitely seen we've received some good feedback, I think. So that's reassuring, but it's still, I think most people haven't heard it. So
yeah.
It's a little scary.
When I've listened to all three, records, I mean, I like all three of them for much, different reasons. I mean, what happens after and the last one, A Place You Grew Up in, I really like that one. But, obviously in this particular new record, Love Darla, it seems like you've gained a little bit of footing here and in a really interesting way. Tell me about the change of direction for you guys.
I think for me, like a lot of it was moving to New York City because we were based in the capital region, upstate New York area before this album. And Love Darla was pretty much fully written in New York with the exception of two songs. And it was all like demoed out here and we rehearsed everything. A lot, well, some upstate, some here, but definitely New York had a lot to do with it. And I also think the band had a lot to do with it. Like, I think when we were writing these songs, like we just had the band in mind, whereas before were the last two releases. That wasn't really something I was thinking about as much. I was just like, let's just like, we'll make the song whatever the song wants to be. And I think we had a few more rules in place for this album, which
Well, like what kind of rules?
yeah, I guess I don't know, not like you know nothing crazy, I guess, but we definitely didn't want to do a lot of overdubbing. We knew that. We were like, we're gonna limit our overdubs. We want everything to be tracked live. We weren't gonna use a click track, so there's nothing is done to a click track on the album, which is our first time ever doing that. So yeah, just kind of like little things like that.
When you talk about the move from Albany to the big city and into New York and how it's affected you, what was it about the difference between those two cities that resonated with you? Obviously, I mean, you're talking about like completely different parts of New York, but what was it about the city that influenced you?
For me, like a lot of the sounds and the just the people, it's very crazy here. The energy, yeah, for sure. Also the history, it has so much music history. I for sure got into more New York bands after we moved. So it was cool to like be living here and experience and like just like kind of revisit a lot of artists that I already listened to, but just kind of dive a little deeper into like their catalog and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I
Well,
think that
you should never discount the craziness of the New York State Thruway. I've been there many times, and I know it's not exactly the city, but it can be just as insane if you allow it to be.
absolutely, that's for sure.
You know, I read where your earlier music has been compared to a lot of other bands, and but now what I hear out of you guys is a much more stripped down, Sonic Youth influenced approach, and I assume that when you're talking about bands that you've had a chance to really dive into, that was one of them, which I can totally appreciate. Where does Sonic Youth land for you guys? Obviously, that it had something to do with what influenced you here.
Yeah, yeah. Ever since we moved here, I think the first band I really started getting into, especially when we were starting. I think we were both into this band, but we were listening to a lot of Blonde Redhead,
Hmm.
especially like their first two records. Um, and I feel like a huge part of that was just like being in the city. I think my listening habits changed, especially like going onto the train instead of like driving on the throughway. Um, and I think it just made both Allie and I like more interested in music that like really cut through, which ironically I think was more of a more noise rock groups just sound better on the train for some reason. I don't know why. But
Well, it's like
yeah.
the train sounds, it has these horrible squeaking noises that it makes, and people are doing God knows what at all hours of the night and the day on the train. And it's sort of like there's no real way to tune it out. Honestly, like I mean, I have really great noise canceling headphones and those do pretty good. But like most of the time I don't want my noise canceling headphones because you kind of want to know what's going on around you. You don't want to be like too in your head when you're on the move. And so I feel like, like the AirPods, you get so much bleed and it's like the only thing that can drown it out is noise rock. So
So the two of you met in high school, if I'm understanding this correctly. How did the partnership start out, and when did you start to realize that like a writing partnership was in the works for the two of you?
I think we had like mutual shared trauma, so to speak. It's light trauma, I guess. But
Yeah.
just like we were in a band together and we had this really crappy relationship with this guy who was in New York City at the time, and had come seen our band play upstate and was like, I want to manage you guys. And like, we were all super young. Like I was like 17 and you were like 20, 21. And yeah, and it just like, he just had like a really bad coke addiction. And we were like, we didn't see any of that. He just kind of, I think he like strung us along a bit, and we ended up like taking forever to record an EP, and it was just like a big mess. And he ended up kind of changing the songs, and
it just wasn't
a good experience.
Yeah.
So I think after that we were feeling pretty bummed out, and also like we were just not at all excited about the music, and Jake especially, because he was more like had a bigger hand in the songwriting for that specific band.
We just wanted to do something like our own way. We
Yeah,
wanted to be more in control of the process, and I think Laveda was like a direct result of us like coming from that experience and being like, these are the tools we learned from this weird experience we had, and these are all the things that we're going to do differently. And we did with our friend Dylan, who's also kind of involved in the process with the other band as well, very lightly. And
he was the intern.
Yeah, he was the intern. And we had a really good experience with we just would get stoned and drunk and we were just throwing paint at the wall, and like we were just having fun, the three of us like recording at like Dylan's apartment or in the studio that he was interning at the time, and we learned a lot.
So when you go through something like that, and obviously you would not be the first band to be introduced to someone that might not have been a good fix, and may have been in fact a toxic relationship in some ways. At what point do you say, or do you figure out, writing together actually works for the two of you? I mean, Jacob, you were talking about doing a bulk of the writing back then, but Allie, when you start incorporating your talent into this, did it flow naturally? Did it take a lot of work to develop?
We were like texting ideas to each other a lot.
Yeah, I think like
we didn't live in the same like area at the time when we started writing.
No, yeah, we were both in school. Jake was at or living in Rochester for college, and I was in Albany. Well, I was in Purchase, and then I was in Albany. And we would we would just like send voice memos back and forth to one another. And I was a very new songwriter. I mean, really, when we started Laveda, I feel like that was my first album. That album that I had ever really felt like I had creatively like contributed to. So it is funny looking back, I'm like, wow, like the whole world has that, and that was the first thing I did. Like that's a little crazy to me, but
we didn't really say no to any songs.
No, we didn't.
Like...
we were just like, if we finished the song, it made the record. But I think like, yeah, I think working with Dylan and Jake, I mean, both like they both taught me so much, and they were both so just like supportive of me and like my ideas. And you can't really ask for anything better from like songwriting partners, especially after seeing like after what we went through with with the manager guy. Like he did not make me feel comfortable or safe at all to like, just be myself. And
it was much more of a cookie cutter process for sure.
Yeah. So, and I think just working with people that make you feel comfortable is like,
it's everything.
Yeah.
So now that a few years have passed and you've gotten beyond, that situation, I mean, how has the process of writing music changed for the two of you? Obviously it's, it's gotten easier and you're more free to do what you want, but how has that developed from that point to now?
I feel like,
well,
it's changed a lot. I think like the last record A Place You Grew Up In was, I was definitely, I was more like I was just further exploring like songwriting, and I think having like a heavier hand in it for that record. And then this record felt more like I was writing ideas so I could collaborate with the rest of the band. So I don't know. I guess like for each project, it seems like there is sort of a theme within the songwriting. There has been, but yeah, I don't know. I found like with this project and currently I really enjoy writing like in a DAW, like in a DAW. Just being able to record like my ideas immediately. So it just feels very like authentic and natural. And it's not something that I'm like playing on an acoustic guitar over and over and like having to practice, if that makes sense. So I can just kind of throw paint on the canvas and then like close the session. And then, if I'm singing it later, I know that it's worth revisiting and maybe finishing. And I think that's how a lot of the songs on this album were.
And
were
is that the same for you too, Jacob?
Well, I feel like my role has shifted for this band like over time. At first, I was like, Allie and I were both kind of writing ideas, whether it be separately or together, for like what happens after. And then for A Place You Grew Up In, I think you started a lot of ideas on your own, or we either started them together. But I wasn't really I think my role in A Place You Grew Up In was more production and recording. And for this project, I think I'm very flexible with the creative process, and I enjoy doing different things and like trying to get better at different things, a part of the process. But for this one, I feel like we threw a lot of paint at the wall for A Place You Grew Up In, especially with like guitar parts. And whatever paint we threw for A Place You Grew Up In, we pretty much would keep it, or like delete it and try it again or try something new. But usually when we track something or a new idea, it pretty much was the take. Like we did a lot of overdubbing for A Place You Grew Up In. But for Love Darla, I think we did that before actually recording the thing. Like you were throwing paint at the wall so we could figure it out later. So I feel like my role is like, like Bonehead, for example, like you made this incredible demo with like 13 guitar tracks. And it definitely was cool. And you could have just put it out like that, no drums, bass, vocals, and it's its own thing,
Right.
But we were like, okay, so how are we gonna like make this doable for two guitars, drums and bass? And I feel like my role in that was like trying to figure it out, like kind of more arranging, I think was I was a big part of that, especially Joe and Dan were as well. Like we all kind of arrange together too as well.
Yeah, Scoop's the guy who recorded the record in Philly. He's like our friend who's worked on all 3 records in some capacity. He's always been like a big advocate for a good arrangement, and I think like he really also like stressed, given like the ideas that we had and the way that we wanted to record this album, he stressed how important it was to have a really good arrangement and feel really good about it because
before
recording. So I think I don't know, we had a lot of things in mind.
You had mentioned early on how important the band was to your development, especially in this last record. And you mentioned Joe and Dan here just a second ago, and how they've helped arrange some of this music. How can you say about those guys that's been so helpful?
I mean, everything.
And also, I think one thing that is worth mentioning as well, like Joe and Dan were also a part of A Place You Grew Up In, but we had basically like never even really toured together yet. Like we did like one little tour like right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened. We didn't play for like another year, and then we're like, okay, let's go record an album.
Yeah.
But for this record, like we knew what they sounded like so much more thoroughly, and we had gone on like so many tours together, and I feel like we knew more how they were going to collaborate to the project and to the songs before even like working on them together.
Yeah, I think honestly I feel sorry. I feel like just spending so much time with one another for sure as has like I think opened us all up to be like even more collaborative than we have been in the past, and just like, developing like the trust. I think like I definitely have trust issues like creatively sometimes for reasons but like but art is very like it's like kind of a sacred thing. I think a lot of people think that I mean, I think I'm every day I'm like, you know what, it's not as important as it feels like it is in my head, but it is one of those things where it's just very personal. And I think they've helped so much, like they've kind of helped me like not care as much, and just be more open to kind of anything. And I think it's all for the better.
Do you think artistically you get too much into your head, and having these guys around to help you gets you out of that, where you're just freer to express yourself? Or because I mean, I know some people when they write, the last thing they want to do is let other guys in the band know about it. It's like there's some sort of intense fears. Like I hope no one ever asks what I've written down, because this is what I got and it's great, but I don't want anyone to know about it. Is that some of what you experience?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I keep ideas like really close to me, until I feel ready to share them. And then I have like lots of friends. I feel like Jake like too is like total we're very opposite when it comes to songwriting in some ways, which I think is cool. I think if if you're not on the if you don't write the same way as your songwriting partner, it's actually probably better because they're going to fill in the gaps,
Yeah.
and you're going to kind of like take each other into new places. But yeah, I would say so. That's probably like accurate. I try and share stuff.
Let's talk about the new album here a little bit, because I mean, obviously this is it's coming out in just a matter of days. The title "Love Darla," where does that come from? Tell me the story about that.
Well, basically, I feel like a lot of these songs they're kind of like depictions of I'm like a girl or a person kind of in this like alternate reality. It's kind of like an alternate reality version of myself in a lot of songs.
You like have made different decisions.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, like, when you reach this point in your life, if you had chosen to go down, this path instead of this one, where would you be? Like, where would that person be right now where I am? And I think, yeah, so I think like conceptually, I was like, oh, I like the idea of it being like, the name of a person, like this alter ego. And it's been exciting because we're doing music videos for all the songs, and I've had a couple of my friends, I've been in a lot of the music videos, the whole band has been in a lot of the music videos, but we've had a lot of friends kind of star in some of these videos, and to me it's cool because they feel like Darla in like these separate videos. But yeah, and we got the name Darla from we were playing like a house show in St. Louis, and basically we like heard about, long story short, there was a guy that came to the show, and
he had a picture
of a spider that he wanted to show us, and the
It's like-
spider's name was Darla, and
It's like, this is Darla. She's from my spider
he's
farm.
from my spider farm. And it was
And
like,
me,
yeah,
I took that. I was like, oh shit, like the next album we write, I'm gonna be thinking about this spider. Like this spider is so cool and so cute, but like so vicious at the same time.
Yeah, we had the
Which-
picture in our car for like tours, and like we would see this picture of the spider, and like Jake was really attached to it, and I thought it was cool.
I have a strange attachment to the spider.
So that was kind of our.
That's where the name
that's
comes
where the
from.
name
Gotcha.
got.
So the first two singles off the record are Heaven and Cell Phone. They're both great songs. Tell me a little bit about that one. I thought Cell Phone was really, really cool. Tell me about that one first.
Yeah, that's one of the ones we actually didn't write here. Right before we moved to New York, we were out in LA with Dylan, and we were just jamming, having fun, and I was playing a lot of bass when we were there, which I really
You
hadn't done.
Yeah.
At least for writing. I wasn't just like playing the bass. Bass was always something I thought about later. But I don't know, he just had a really expensive bass, and I was like, I couldn't keep my hands off it. So yeah, and it was kind of just born in a jam session, and the whole song was really written in like less than an hour maybe, and we just demoed it out. We recorded it, and
Did it all live too.
yeah, and we were like all like, oh my god, this is just so stuck in our heads, like all week. It was a curse, actually. I was like, what have we done? Like, I can't get this out of my head.
Yeah,
But-
it's the biggest earworm on the whole record. I mean, it's once you hear it, like, man, I hope my hair looks like a boy too. I mean,
Yeah, lyrically it is a funny one. For a little bit I tried to like
You tried to
change the
that lyric,
words. I
too.
did try to change that lyric because I was like, God, am I really gonna say like this? And I don't know, I was just like, but it just sings so
Yeah.
great.
And all those lyrics were like off the cuff too. Like, and pretty much kept all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
I changed like 2 or 3 to maybe make them have a little more sense, but for the most part, all lyrics are the same. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I could have changed them, but I just really couldn't come up with anything else. And I thought I couldn't imagine it a different way. So I was like, this is it. And nobody's had a problem with it so far. So.
one of the other songs that it's not a single, but I really liked it because I thought you guys really ripped it up with Strawberry. That was it's clearly the most up tempo, loudest song on the record. It's really, really cool. Tell me a little bit about that one.
That was a big song for us for the album. I think in order to write the rest of the record, Jake and I.
That was like one of the first songs we started playing live off the record.
Mhm.
We only had Strawberry and Heaven, like kind of written, and we had a show, and we were like, we don't want to play like old songs. We need to start playing some new songs because we're like, oh my god, so sick of playing these old songs. So we started playing those, and they had a different. I wouldn't say they had like a different vibe overall when we started playing them, but those were like we took those 2 songs on tour, and I think if we hadn't done that, I think the Love Darla would have maybe turned out a little differently. I think those 2 songs really helped us know like what direction we were going for the next record, and figuring them out as a band was like really integral to making those songs kind of hit, because they were kind of tricky to figure out for us initially, especially Heaven was. But it was cool to figure that process out.
You guys have been touring for a bit. In fact, you were just in Boston not that long ago, and unfortunately, wasn't able to go. But when a band changes direction like that, even whether you feel like you've got a huge audience or a building audience, there's got to be a certain trepidation. It's like, oh my God, how are people going to react to this? But for you guys, touring, I assume, has changed quite a lot, simply because of the direction you're now going. Has it changed drastically with the way you approach the songs, the way you approach the travel? Does it make any difference at all for you guys right now?
It definitely has changed things a little bit. I mean, we play small clubs mostly, so I think and we're fairly involved with the booking process. So I think like it definitely has kind of opened new doors for us in terms of what other bands like we're looking to play with. Which that's been super exciting because I feel like this new record is a little bit more, it's a little heavier and it's just a little bit more rock. And I feel like that's always been like my favorite genre of music to go see live. So I think we're starting to sort of see, hopefully there'll be more of this down the road, but see more bands just that we're sharing bills with that we're super into. Not that we weren't playing with bands that we were into before. It's
Right.
just, for me, it's a little more exciting.
You guys are about to go into Austin for the Levitation Festival. It's a pretty stacked lineup. I mean, you guys are not new to festivals. You've done them before. I think you guys were at South by Southwest at one point. I know some people really like playing them, and some people find it to be kind of difficult. What's your experience been like at festivals? Do you like it, or is it less than what you're looking for out of it?
I mean, they're always chaotic, that's for sure. Like, there's never been a festival that we haven't, that hasn't been chaotic.
I think we're a band that handles chaos pretty well.
We do.
We're very adaptable.
Yeah, we're pretty we're like, throw me wherever and we'll make it work. I like festivals. I think South by especially is crazy just because, you're dealing with shared backline for like pretty much every show, and you have like 10-minute changeovers, like impossible, which is just, basically impossible to do. And you have to do it because there's like 17 bands playing after you, or you're playing after 17 bands and there's only one more band, and if you're late, nobody's gonna watch your set, or it's a lot. But it is fun.
Is the new set more Love Darla heavy than say the other stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's very heavy-handed on the Love Darla side of things.
Because I would imagine, because you guys have pivoted substantially here, that some of the old music may not smoothly work out with some of the new stuff, or some people may not even care, because there's enough variety in all that to make it interesting. I mean, but I assume that like right now, because of a release, you're focused on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And also, like, with our setup live, it is Love Darla is kind of like a different arrangement. It's because usually, like, with the older stuff, we play with like tracks and like a click track, and we were technology band.
Yeah.
But Love Darla obviously doesn't have any stuff like that. Like, we're just playing rock songs. So we're very picky in terms of like what older songs we throw into that mix. We still like playing like a couple.
Yeah, we'll usually throw in one or two, sometimes three, but
and sometimes people request stuff like beforehand, and we're like, oh well, there's a 16-year-old and they're never gonna be able to see us again because we like play 21 plus shows all the time, and they want us to play this one specific old song, so we should probably do it for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually we're pretty picky.
Well, guys, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know things are going to get very busy for you soon. The release date is September 12th. Love Darla is the name of the record. Allie and Jacob, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
The name of the new album from Laveda is called Love Darla, and it comes out this week on September 12th. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can always email me at bax@rock102.com. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks to Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee for their support, but most of all, thanks to you for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast.